So I'm going to talk to you all about blood types now. So there are 4 different genotypes for blood types. So I could have A-type blood, B-type blood, O-type blood, or AB type blood. So that's what I consider the genotype. Oops, I'm telling you all the wrong thing. Here, let me erase that. It's been a long day, guys. That's the phenotype. Okay, so that's the phenotype. If I were talking about genotype, then I have multiple different genotypes that can code for each one of those phenotypes. So you have to understand that I have a dominant allele, and I have 2 dominant alleles. So A is dominant and B is dominant. When I have multiple dominant alleles, that's called codominance. Okay, and I also have a recessive allele, which is O. So that's my recessive allele. Okay, so if you have O-type blood, it's almost as if you have like water blood. There's no antigens in it. That's the purest kind of blood. And O-type blood usually can go to almost anybody. So I'm able to mix O-type blood with A blood, B blood, or AB blood. So whenever I'm trying to show the difference between my dominant alleles and capital A or capital B and the recessive allele, which is also represented as a capital O, it gets confusing because they're all capitals. So what happens is you'd have to show a dominant allele with a capital I, and then you write the A next to it. Or if I'm trying to show the B, I'd write a capital I with a B next to it. If I'm trying to show the recessive allele O, I write a lowercase I. So you're just supposed to assume that anytime you see a lowercase I, that means that it's O. So if I have AB blood, that means that I have both a capital A and a capital B. So all my blood types actually have 2 alleles in them, just like everything else. So if you have AB blood, you have to have a capital A and a capital B. They're both codominant, so you have to say both of them. You'll have AB blood. If I have O-type blood, I know I have to have a lowercase I, but I have 2 alleles, so I'm going to have another lowercase I. So really, you have OO blood, but you just call it O. For A and B, it gets a little more confusing. So if I have B blood, I could have BB blood, or I could have BO blood. So because my O is recessive and my B is dominant, I would just say that I have B-type blood. You don't go around saying that I have BO blood. You would just say I have B-type blood. So you'll never know really if you're a B-type blood person if you have BB or BO, unless you know what your parents had or what your children had, and then you could figure out what you had. So the same thing goes for A. You could have AA blood or AO blood. So you would write it with a capital A and a lowercase I for the O. So anytime you see a lowercase I, you're supposed to know that that means O. Okay, so the main reason that they look at these blood types is to determine if the child is possibly the father's or who they belong to. So if I had a mother and she has AO blood, and I have a father who has BO blood, and you want to know if it's possible for them to have a child who has O blood. And if I look, I can say, yes, this O and this O go together, and that gives me the possibility of having that as a child. But you have to remember it gets a little confusing because as far as this mother knows, she has type A blood. And as far as this father knows, he has type B blood. And this child has type O blood. So there's a lot of people out there who don't know the exact science behind blood types, so they'll say the mom's type A, the dad's type B. There's no way that this could be the child, but that's not true. That could be the child because this dad was BO and this mom was AO. So yes, they could have a type O child. That is possible. Okay, so we're just going to do an example. So I have a mom who's AA, so she has to be capital IA, capital IA, and a dad who's AB, so he's codominant for an A and a B. So they're going to have one possible child who could be AA, another child who could have AA, another child who could have AB, another child who could have AB. So the chances of them having a child who has A-type blood is going to be 50%, and the chances of them having a child who's AB-type blood will be 50%. Now, if I asked you what the phenotypes were, you would tell me the phenotypes are type A for these children and type AB for these children. But if I asked you what their genotypes were, you would have to tell me the genotype is capital IA, and you'd have to tell me that the other genotypes would be capital IA and capital IB. Okay, so we're going to do one more type of problem. So if I have a mom who her phenotype is type A, and the dad's phenotype is type O, and the baby's phenotype is type B, I want to know if that is possible for that to happen. So I know that this child could either be BB or BO. So I know that this O could have come from the dad, meaning that B would have had to come from the mom, but that's not possible because the mom has A. So she could either only be AA or AO. So that means that this baby right here must have been switched at the hospital because it's not possible for it to belong to this mom. It is possible for them to belong to that dad, but not to that mom. So if that mom indeed did give birth to this baby, then something must have happened at the hospital where they got switched. That is an impossible situation. Okay, so I have one last situation. So I have a mom and she is type O, which means she can only be OO. Right, or little I. And I have a baby who is type A, so that baby could be AA or it could be AI, right? So seeing as how the mom only has O's, I know that this baby has to be type AO. So if the O came from the mom, then the A must have come from the father. So if I'm looking at the three possible dads, this dad has an A, so he could work. This dad only has a B, so dad number 2 is out. And dad number 3 has AB, so he also might be the father. So either dad number 1 or dad number 3 both could possibly be the father of that baby. Okay, so that's all the examples that I have for y'all. I could do more if y'all need me to. So if you have problems, send me a message on Facebook or you can email me. I don't know if any of y'all know how to do Google Hangout. So if you have a Google account, you could do a Hangout with me at my Gmail. So my Gmail is the same thing as nicole.finland@gmail.com. And if you did a Hangout with me, then I could show you things on my computer and show you more examples if you need help. So feel free to do that. I'm seriously at home doing nothing, so don't feel like you're bothering me. Start studying for the AP test, guys. Bye.